Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel Movie Creepers. Today we're diving into the 6th episode of Invincible Season 3, and wow, what an emotional ride this one is. We've got new characters, a devastating tragedy, and the first hints of a major new threat that's going to shake things up in Mark's world. So, let's break it down. But before we jump into the exploration, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on future videos. Thank you. Let's begin.
No! Give me the real Invincible!
Invincible Season 3 Episode 6, The PowerPlex Battle and the Beginning of the Invincible War. The episode starts by taking us back to the aftermath of the epic fight between Nolan and Mark, the one that devastated Chicago. If you remember, during that battle, the city was completely destroyed and a lot of innocent lives were lost. One of those lives that we focus on is Scott Duvall, a regular guy who is just going about his day with his sister, Jessica, and his niece, Gretchen. Scott, it turns out, has a unique power. He can absorb electrical energy and store it, which makes him seem like he could be a potential hero. But, of course, things take a tragic turn. While Scott is spending time with his family, Mark and Nolan are tearing through Chicago, and Jessica and Gretchen become collateral damage. Scott is powerless to stop it, and that trauma follows him for years. He spends those years trying to get justice for his family, but with Omni-Man gone and Mark under the protection of the Global Defense Agency, GDA, his efforts hit one dead end after another. There's no one to hold Mark accountable, no one to fix the destruction that's been left in the wake of that fight. Fast forward a few years, and Scott is no longer a superhero. Instead, he works as an analyst at the DGA, which is where we see him stealing biotherm discs, these devices that allow him to store energy. He implants them into his own body and begins practicing how to use his powers. You see, every time he's hit, whether it's a punch or something more intense, he absorbs the energy from the blow, stores it in those discs, and can release it as an electric blast when the time is right. It's a pretty fascinating power, and it shows just how far Scott is willing to go to deal with his anger and the damage caused by Mark and his father. Meanwhile, we get a glimpse of Oliver, Mark's younger brother, trying to learn what it means to be a responsible superhero. He's out fighting a villain called Elephant, who wants to force everyone to go vegan, and Mark and Eve are there to supervise him. They're trying to teach Oliver the ropes, not just how to fight, but how to be a hero who values life, who knows when to fight and when to walk away. Oliver, being young and naive, questions why people can't forgive Nolan for all the lives he's taken, even though, in his mind, Nolan has saved so many others. Mark and Eve, of course, know that it's not that simple. Nolan's actions aren't black and white, and there's a lot of pain caused by his decisions that can't just be swept under the rug. We then get a little slice of life with Mark, Eve, William, and Rick as they head out for a night of bowling. It's a nice, lighthearted moment, especially when they bump into Amber and her boyfriend, Kyle. Amber and Mark's awkward tension gets broken pretty quickly, and we see Mark bond with Kyle over their shared love of Seance Dog, which is a hilarious little detail that makes the moment feel real. But of course, the night isn't all fun and games. PowerPlex, a new villain, shows up and starts causing havoc at an intersection, and this is where things start to get complicated. As much as Mark wants to stop him, he's not officially working with the GDA anymore. He's no longer an approved superhero, so he refuses to step in. This leads to a hilarious moment where the title card of the episode drops in the middle of PowerPlex's destruction, which is a nice bit of humor to break the tension. Instead, we get to see the hero Shapesmith, who tries to take down PowerPlex but fails in spectacular fashion. It's a funny, almost tragic moment, and it really highlights how serious things are starting to get for Mark and the world he's in. Back home, Scott is still struggling with his frustrations. He's desperate to get Invincible's attention, but Mark refuses to show up. It's only when Becky, Scott's wife, reminds him about the annual memorial service for the victims of a Chicago incident that Scott sees an opportunity to confront Mark. At the memorial, PowerPlex makes his move, hijacking the service in a fit of rage. Mark, despite wanting to help, holds back because he knows stepping in could only make things worse. Eve, being the voice of reason, takes it upon herself to stop PowerPlex, and we get a great action sequence where she goes head-to-head with him. Eventually, other heroes like Darkwing 2, the Immortal, and Shapesmith arrive to de-escalate the situation, and PowerPlex is captured. But as he's being transported to a secure facility, he escapes, setting the stage for more chaos to come. This entire sequence highlights the emotional toll that Mark is going through. He's not just dealing with the consequences of his actions, but he's also realizing just how complicated being a hero truly is. He's no longer working under the GDA's guidance, and he's beginning to feel the weight of his decisions. This hits hard when Donald informs Mark that Scott has taken his family hostage, demanding that Mark come to a building, likely the one where Jessica and Gretchen died all those years ago. When Mark arrives, he's desperate to avoid a confrontation, trying to talk to Scott and calm him down. But Scott, consumed by anger and pain, doesn't want to listen. The two of them end up fighting, and things get out of hand quickly. Scott, in a moment of utter despair, unleashes a massive surge of energy, accidentally killing his wife and son in the process. Mark, emotionally shattered, manages to subdue Scott and take him to the Peyton Penitentiary, but this doesn't feel like a victory. Mark tries to apologize, but Scott doesn't want to hear it. He vows to escape and take revenge on Mark someday. This sets the stage for the biggest reveal of the episode, the mysterious drone that's been spying on Mark and Eve. It turns out that the person behind it is none other than Angstrom Levy, but this version of Angstrom looks different, more scarred, more mechanical. He's been gathering different versions of Mark from alternate realities, and it looks like he's gearing up for something huge. This sets up what we can only assume is the beginning of the Invincible War, a storyline in which Mark will have to face multiple versions of himself. As the episode ends, Mark's psyche is in a fragile state. He's just witnessed the horrific consequences of his and his father's actions, and now he's about to face a war unlike anything he's experienced before. How will he deal with an army of his own variants? And how will it affect him emotionally and mentally? Invincible has been known for its raw, emotional storytelling, and this episode is no exception. Mark is constantly learning the hard way that being a hero comes with devastating consequences, and the road ahead is going to be even more painful. The Invincible War is looming on the horizon, and you can bet it's going to be a wild ride. So, what do you think of Episode 6? Are you excited for the Invincible War? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Invincible breakdowns and content. Until next time.